So for those of you who have joined us on social media, Reelblack Radio can now officially begin because Mike is now in the studio.
Yeah, and I think the camera's still tilting down. But anyway, Michael Jackson, he's got a Broadway musical coming. You're not excited?
No.
They're going to take all the songs that Michael Jackson ever sold records on, and they're going to make a review, and they got the top choreographer, and Lynn Nottage, of all people, Pulitzer Prize winner, is going to be writing the book. Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain. This would normally make me very happy. Lady, though anybody who listens to this program knows how I feel, about Michael Jackson, about music in general, and about musical theater coming to Broadway. Mm-hmm. I posted earlier this week on my Facebook page, for those of you who are my friends there or who just check out my posts from time to time, a clip of this year's Tony Award telecast where they did a clip from the Donna Summer musical.
Okay.
And while I have great respect for LaShawne's and the work that she did in The Color Purple, that performance that they did, and Donna Summer is near and dear to my heart.
She's one of your favorites.
She's one of my all-time favorites. The wigs and the singing involved in that clip from the Tony Awards, it hurt me deeply. And they were
so your fear is that they're like generations and generations of Michael Jackson impersonators.
Who do you get? No, for real. From Michael Jackson and a review of his hits. Mm-hmm. Who off the top of your head right this moment could you think of that could even because we know that it's Broadway's history at this point, right, to not go looking for the new next unknown talent. They're generally trying to grab somebody who has some name recognition, who can guarantee some ticket sales coming into a production like this. And who do you know that can do Michael Jackson justice to the nth degree, like it would need to sell a Broadway show?
Well, if you wanted somebody, Usher or Chris Brown or somebody like that, could do the dance things and the dance tributes. Now, I don't know who you would have. Like if it involved any kind of singing and dancing.
Which it would have to.
A lot of the current Michael Jackson impersonators, and there are quite a few like on Instagram and YouTube that have huge followings that are just known. They've gotten the surgery, they've gotten the skin, they got it all down to a science, So I would imagine, if you're going to do it, you need at least 2 or 3 different actors because you have to play them in different stages as youth, as older days or whatever, or otherwise you just hit people over the head like with the Motown musical, just song after song. But then why do you need Lynn Nottage,
and that's the other thing about this Donna Summer piece. So if we're comparing apples to apples, Coleman Domingo did the book for the Donna Summer Broadway musical. So I have high expectations of what it actually turns out to be on stage, but I'm telling you, that clip was underwhelming.
That brings up one of the things, like we don't have guests today. I think next week we're going to have Terrence Nance call in. His new show premieres.
Next week we're at the barbecue.
Oh, that's right. Soon. Okay, you're away. So the next time that we're on, we'll have Terrence Nance call in. He's got a brand new show, and the premieres, I think, this weekend on HBO.
Nice.
But feel free to call in.
Yes.
What you're saying is sort of like how I was feeling prior to last night. Thank you so much for allowing us to
I want to take a minute. I want to take a minute to sit on that because we do our sibling rivalry thing here on the air, but we want to talk to all the folks that came out last night.
Prior to last night, I was absorbing all the energy of Mike. Because I was talking about Superfly. Mike, you're a hater. You're just an old man. You fat. You just don't get the youth. You don't understand that Superfly is a work of genius, and it's an update of where we are today. And so I own all that, and I just feel like you can like whatever you like.
Yes.
But I think the role of the double standard. I also after my little rant on Superfly, I put up this interview of Ron O'Neal and Hugh Robertson talking about the blaxploitation backlash and the dilemma of the black filmmaker, which and prior to them calling the dilemma of the black filmmaker was the dilemma of the black actor, which is, how can one film or one thing represent an entire race, which is what the dilemma of the black filmmaker is. Like, you're not going to please everybody.
Right.
And if you attempt to show anything that reflects your truth, your reality, you risk having a backlash from other people that say, well, that's not me. When you have low representation and every image that puts out there is supposed to represent the entire race.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but we don't have that issue in this moment in black cinema.
Well, I think it's to an extent, because you still have who's funding these stories.
Well, I mean, but who's funding versus having lots of visual representation in the offerings.
But if it's set up where the only way to stay in the game is to be profitable, a lot of great work will never see it, or it'll be compromised.
Well, I don't argue that point with you at all.
We're kind of caught in a little pigeonhole in that respect,
and that's certainly the case on Black Broadway.
Yeah.
So as we started that conversation, the idea that reviews are going to be welcomed, but serious black drama in terms of plays that make it all the way to Broadway and are successful, that don't close after a week, that kind of thing is difficult for us to get to in a substantial way. I want to pause that though, so we can welcome Shayna calling in from Germantown. Good afternoon, sis.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. So listen, I was really, what sparked my interest was you talking about Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. And I have to agree. I mean, that album is incredible. I think no matter what mood I'm in, as soon as I hear the first, tonation from any of those songs, I'm like, I just want to jump out of my feet.
Yes.
I feel like, that probably was the first album where Michael felt free to be really who he was, I think. And I'm thinking after all of the other albums, although they were great, because, I love me some Michael, I think maybe he felt like he had to conform to some things, and he was trying to appeal to all kinds of people or certain people or the music industry itself or whatever on all of his other albums. So,
yeah. And he was and we got to take into consideration that Michael was a perfectionist. So part of his the haunting that led him to the sleeplessness and everything else was constantly trying to outdo himself.
Yes. Yep. No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. And although I do agree too with the whole Broadway play thing, I would be highly upset because I don't think anybody can do anything on any level near what Michael could have done, but I probably still would go.
Just to hear the music, right?
There you go. And I love Michael so, but I probably would be rolling my eyes in my head the whole time.
So we know when you be looking for a matinee discounted ticket.
There you go. Exactly. And I already look for those anyway, so I can take the whole fam.
Yes, right.
Yeah, but all right. Thank y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in today, Shayna. And I know, as Shayna's former neighbor up in Germantown, I know that I can guarantee that I will see Shayna and her husband Norman, and whenever they can, bring the entire tribe out to experience the cultural things that go on in our community. I love the fact that they expose their children to so much of a wide diversity of our Black experience, especially when it comes to music and other cultural expression.
Right, and I know we're up against break. Well, speaking of tribes in Germantown, shout out, congratulations to Ursula Rucker, who just won a few fellowships.
I mentioned that, yes.
And then also Ava DuVernay, first Black woman to cross 100 million mark with Wrinkle in Time box office.
Yes, and so they're in Variety magazine. They did a photo array of all the Black directors who have been able to achieve that accomplishment. So just having her lovely face among the Black Boys Club, if you will, and she says she is the first but will not be the only. So she is automatically projecting out into the universe that thanks to the collaborative effort that, her organization, Affirm, is doing, but also the opportunities that folks are elbowing doors open and sticking their foot in it so that the next person can come behind them, having more of an opportunity to get to that kind of box office glory.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity to talk to Little Rel this week, who's got a movie, Uncle Drew, which is great for the whole family. I endorse it. And he's just talking about the collective spirit within his peer group. He says he talks regularly with Tiffany Haddish and Issa Rae and Carmichael. That's his clique. And they're working hard not only to get their ideas out, but to also just make sure that they maintain. So obviously there is a greater support system today for Black artists and Black filmmakers than there was 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
But the dilemma still exists. How do you make work that is pushes boundaries, but at the same time is responsible? So I think my issue with Superfly wasn't like, hey, we shouldn't have a Superfly. It's just like when you take on the name Superfly, there's a legacy involved with that. And then if you're gonna sort of remind people of Belly and remind people of Scarface, why not just on a visual level? Why not on a story level? Make it something that people can invest in. Now, I know the majority of films that get made are not great movies,
right?
So I don't necessarily say that should be at a higher standard, but well,
I mean, there are. It is difficult for some of today's filmmakers to have the patience and endurance to tell a story that is exceptional on all levels. So we're talking about book. We are talking about the level of acting. We're talking about the cinematography. We're talking about the soundtrack. I mean, all these different things that actually sell a film to the audience. But at the very least, what we can as a community do is be discriminating. We can support these films, but we can also look for those levels and those opportunities, which is what you pointed out about Superfly. Yeah. It's not so much that it's a tragedy that a remake of the film was made, but if you're going to do it, do it.
Right.
Like, be all in.
Right. And I think if you look at some of the films and the role of the critic also, your work can't get better. First of all, you have first-time filmmakers. You have to allow them time to grow and develop their voice. So that's one thing. And then also, I would say, if you look at the films that are really successful, the projects that are coming through with a level of vision intact, it's a multi-generational process. It's older, veteran talent that's either producing or have a hand in helping to make the movie great. So and Little X has been around for 20 years, but Joel Silver is the executive producer. He's done The Matrix. He's just looking at it, hey, let's make this bigger and louder and make some money. There's no voice of reason when it comes to it. And I feel like, listening to Little X interviews, he fought to at least make it representative of what fans were expecting from a Superfly movie, because they literally trashed the entire script that they had to make it more.
I wish that story wasn't so common, because we've heard that over the last, even say 5 years, the idea that they've pretty much had to go back with some of these projects and start from scratch because they just weren't pleased with where it was in development.
Well, I think that happens when you bring new people in. So, XC said they had the rights to Superfly originally, and they had a script, and then they lost the rights. They put a lot of money into rewriting a character similar, which was based on King Lear. And then they brought X in. They got the rights back to the name Superfly. X came in, and he read the script, and he said, well, wait, this guy wants to get deeper and deeper into the drug trade, not get out of it.
Right.
So he said he'd never seen Superfly, but he insisted they look at the film and break down all the elements, but he's a visual stylist. So what I feel they missed was sort of the consciousness of just and Charles Woods and I, we spent hours talking about it, that interview post. Just the original Superfly was part of the zeitgeist of 1972. There's a huge heroin epidemic, and they're making a comment on the American dream. It's like the American dream is to have $1 million and escape. And the drug trade is one of the few places that Black folks could prosper at that time. So even though you're watching it and it's glamorizing, glorifying this thing, it's also making when you walk out of the theater, you're walking out onto the same streets that you see.
I was going to say, and $1 million doesn't get you nearly as far in 2018 as it would in 1972.
The number's 33. It's 33 million. I don't know what 33 represents to anybody, but they need 33 million. But if you walk out of Superfly 2018, if you go to Superfly 2018 and you're seeing a Black guy being shot by a cop, and you go on Twitter, it's just reinforcing to me. But there are a lot of people, it's a good dialogue to have. A lot of people saying that they were making an effort to have some commentary about what's going on.
And there are plenty more of these films coming in this summer season. For us screening folks, next week is a busy week. There's a lot going on over the next couple of weeks for films that are going to be released as the summer progresses. A documentary on Whitney Houston that is considered to be a far more authentic voice or an authentic view of the troubled but also brilliant, of course, and talented path of her life. Than we've seen in some of these biopics and other things that have been going. A documentary is just a different approach to being able to tell the story from the voice, from actual footage of the artist herself. And so I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. I was like, I know I'm going to bawl at some point in it, but I really want to see it. And Sorry to Bother You.
Sorry to Bother. That comes in later in July, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, July's upon us.
Yeah, and so, so there'll be some screenings this week that media folks have been invited to. Mm-hmm. And as these things come to pass, so Lakeith Stanfield, who many people know from the TV series ATL, or of course for his supporting role in Get Out, is the star of this particular film. And shout out to Denise James and her brother who wrote and directed.
Boots Riley's
Boots
brother.
Riley.
Yeah, there's more coming. And then also, while we're in that mode, we should say Black Star Film Festival passes are on pre-sale now. And don't sleep like you did last year and be calling me up the day of. Get your tickets now. Get them early. It's a good investment. It's one of the great things about Philly is that once a year we have Black Star Film Fest.
That's right. And so lots of good things going on. So we got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Mike and I will recap for you our event last night and some of the feedback that we got. And speaking of Black Star, if you've got folks coming in from out of town, they will have a new Black-owned place to stay. So there's a lot happening in our community that we need to talk about on this week's edition of Reelblack Radio. Hang tight. We'll be right back. From their debut album, The Once and Future, that is Jazzy Fat Nasties with a song called Unconventional Ways. And I played that as an interlude to get us back to our conversation with Mike D on this week's edition of Reelblack Radio because, of course, for those of you who don't know, Mike was commissioned through WYBE to do film on the Jazzies.
Yeah, in 2003, I guess, or whether we premiered right in around the summertime. Yeah, Jazzy Fat Nasty's in process. It's on YouTube now, and I guess it's the only official documentary of Black Lily until we come out with Last Night at the 5 Spot. So yeah, and it was part of our conversation last night at Slot, where I am humbled and overwhelmed by the wonderful energy that was in the room for the opening of the photo exhibit that I put together of my great uncle Maurice Sorrell's work, and it will be up through July 21st. But the exhibit's called Photographic Memory. And as a part of the exhibit, I have convened some of my favorite people who do this work, archival work, in their own individual fantastic ways. And so we're talking about video archival, audio archives, documents, and historical markers in the work of Dr. Charles Blockson, and photos with Dr. Deb Willis. That comes later in July. But last night, my partner here on the radio, Mike Dennis and Daryl DeBrest, sat down with our audience and talked about being in the right place at the right time with the right equipment, and the work that you all have done over the years to capture what many people call the underground art scene, and some of our cultural treasures, some of the elders in our community, people who've passed on in particular, and how valuable those conversations and that documentation is. Yeah, and we filmed the conversation, so it'll be going up on the YouTube channel before the end of next week. I'm at a festival this weekend, so I'm going to get a chance to edit it. So just stay tuned for the release
release of that.
Yeah, thank you again. I at the beginning of the year, I mean, I knew in season 15 of Reelblack that I wanted to promote legacy, and I'd been pulling clips from the archives for a while to try and showcase. I've been making calls to different establishments. Hey, this is important. This is historical. You guys should have me, and everybody just sort of like. If it's not defined in a way where they can promote it, it's a little difficult to kind of get your weight up, so to speak. So I was excited. It was very, very intimidating to try and go through all the material to make something that makes sense to.
But you shot it.
The public. Well, I mean, but you're talking about thousands of hours of content to try and boil it down as something that somebody can sit in the immersion space and absorb.
And so let me clarify that for people. So when I got this opportunity to put up this photo exhibit, I said that this is perfect. They have a smaller room that's off to the side that has its own high definition projector and sound system. And I said that's perfect for Reelblack to be able to put together a short kind of compilation of clips of all this wonderful work.
Like a Slot Foundation mixtape exclusive.
Yes.
So from Tuesday through Fridays, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. and you can just walk. It's free.
Just walk in.
You can check out the photos and give yourself an hour or so to watch the videos in the immersion space. So my main point is it didn't have to go all the way across the country. It's like our first art gallery showing is in Philly,
right here at home,
just with old friends. So that was very special to me, and it helped redefine. We're art now. It's not just some ephemeral YouTube video.
That's right.
Who's this guy standing in front of me while I'm trying to watch the show? It's like, no, we're artistes.
That's right. And you can come into an intimate space, sit on the risers, and get your stereo sound and have this high definition screen to watch, where you can be surrounded by some of this history that Reelblack has been able to capture on their cameras. And so last night we had a Q&A about that process, about what it means to set up shop, to be welcomed in, ideally, welcomed into some of these performance spaces at a time when everybody wasn't walking around with 4K cameras in their phones,
right,
and be able to capture some of these up and coming performers or established performers that were just trying out new material. They were in a space of deep creation and sharing. And before the labels get involved and other things get involved that change the way that you interact with an audience or interact with the public, Philadelphia was a gathering space for people who wanted to share and wanted feedback on where they were going with their artistry, and Reelblack was there, and
well, that was part of the beginning, but we were. I think we were having a debate with Eric. Yes, I didn't want. He's like, wow, so what's great about all this is Philly. It's like, well, not exactly. I would say the main point for me is that I knew using my gift or whatever, I didn't wait for permission,
right,
to film stuff. I remember, and shout out to Ursula with the Pew. That's
long overdue. Like I said,
well,
she said six time is the charm. She applied for it 5 times previously and got rejected.
I've been nominated twice, but I remember when we first started in Tito, and the week before we did the hip hop thing at the African American Museum. Thank you for everybody who came out to celebrate Lady B, by the way. But I remember, before the Jazzy's movie and everything, I had an idea. I wanted to do the history of Philly hip hop, and I went with Tito Irizarry. We went to a ITVS, public television meeting, and there's like 50 people in the room, and they said, "This is what you have to do to apply, and then it's going to take a year. You might get $20,000 to do this or whatever." And I walked out of the room. I was like, no, why should we wait a year to just find out whether we have it or not? We have the cameras, we know what we want to do. Let's just get started on our own. And became Philly boy, and once you have a piece of work, you can travel and you meet people. And
absolutely.
Just going going to festivals initially was the impetus for Reelblack Presents, which was like, there's so many great films and filmmakers doing stuff, and there's no outlet here in Philadelphia to even showcase any of it. So, we started the screening series and all that stuff. So it's really, if I have any passion about it, it's like, about not waiting for permission, as Ava would say. Everybody has a camera now.
Yep.
If they're paying a phone bill, they got some kind of camera. And
it's true.
Don't make the mistake that I did. I mean, if don't make, like, I used to like rent the cameras, like VHS cameras or whatever, and I would never, they'd be sitting on the floor in the house, and I would never think to like go over and talk to my grandfather.
Well, first of all, VHS cameras were heavy as hell.
Right.
So you had to be dedicated to throw that up on your shoulder and try and.
But I'm saying our existence is our history. You don't wait for somebody else to validate you,
yes,
or say what you do is important, or what you feel means something.
Yeah.
So that's why I give it all up to you, just to cast the net even wider than just what your great uncle did, but involve the living, breathing community and enhance the legacy. So
I want to take a moment, because you said that, to just thank, because there were several word regulars in the audience last night for the gallery opening and for the Q&A, and some people who couldn't stay. Mm-hmm. So I saw their faces come in and saw them leave without us getting a chance to formally greet them. But, thank you to everyone who showed up, either out of curiosity or just because you wanted to show your love and support for the exhibit and for the Q&A session. And so for those of you, this is the first time you're hearing it, my great uncle Maurice Sorrell was the first Black man to be credentialed as a part of the White House News Photographers Association. And he also worked for 31 years as a staff photographer for Johnson Publications. So the photos that are included in this exhibit are outtakes. These are photos that he gave prints to my great aunt, just, because he was proud of them, because these were images that meant something to him. And they may have been published, they may not have been published. And now with Johnson Publications kind of decentralizing their photo archive and selling off whatever they could sell to the highest bidder in order for the company to stay financially solvent, it makes these photos that much more relevant, because they talk about periods of history, Black presence in these spaces, whether we're talking about the halls of government, sports arenas, our famous entertainers and activists. It's a collection of those images that make a statement. I think it's something for you to be able to walk on either wall in the main gallery and to look at former Mayor Marion Barry. A lot of these people have passed on now. You think about it. So Marion Barry in close conversation with Muhammad Ali on one wall, and Thurgood Marshall at a podium under a mural of Harriet Tubman on the opposite wall. And what that means in terms of Black cultural history and Black presence, and what it was like for my great uncle to be a part of all of that and capture it with his lens. And these are things that we don't talk about often enough. We certainly don't see. And so I really want to send a special thank you to the folks at Slot and Penn School of Social Policy and Practice, who, when I pitched them this idea of giving some space to these images, they said, absolutely. This is the right time. It's 20 years since my uncle passed. And so this is a commemoration of his presence in these spaces to take the images, and also a reflection back on Black history in cultural context that I hope people will enjoy.
Right on. I mean, I've nothing more to say to that, but I do want to encourage people, even the story of how your great uncle had to fight just to get into the press corps, and he was a little dude, so he was scrappy. Just leverage the politics just to be the first Black in the press corps. Yeah. And my story, I don't know, maybe I'm a hater, maybe because it's not that I hate. I said this last night. It's not that I hate what people do or their right to express. It's just, and I don't have, like somebody said on on one of the comments, like, I'm looking at these things through white eyes, and I'm worried about what white people are going to think about these things. I don't have that concern.
That is not Mike's issue.
It's just any sense of liberty that we have. One, trust me, it's going to change. Like 2018 is record breaking. We've never seen this before,
right?
But it's going to change, right? Because we're talking about capitalism. People are getting opportunities. These people are getting opportunities now. They've put their 10,000 hours in, and they're working. And what's great about it is that they're opening doors for other people to get credits,
yes.
like to have their name in the end of Creed 2 or whatever, just to say,
right.
like, I worked on a set. So many people have this dream of making film and telling stories, but they've never worked professionally.
Yeah.
Right. So when that opportunity comes, if they're not ready, they're going to miss that opportunity. It might be another 4 or 5 years before.
And that's why they say, when we talk about marketing, everybody talks about the elevator speech, but if you can articulate in a minute or less what your big vision is and dream is, and you're in front of the right person and they go, I'll write you the check today, can you execute on that vision immediately? Right. That requires putting in the hours, right. and having the wherewithal to say, beginning in this moment, I'm making my dream come true.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of skills to being a filmmaker that gets hired, and then there's way more jobs than just writer, director, or actor. What we get to see. I mean, I say this all the time, too often Black folks, because we don't have access to the entire spectrum, the behind the scenes, we tend to emulate what we see in front of us, which is a lot of things that are like put on TV or whatever. So we. One of the great, the gift and the curse was Spike Lee, in the sense that in 1987, the only way to get for a Black filmmaker to have a movie in theaters was if they wrote, directed, produced, did the craft services.
That's right.
And then hustled the movie
out. Drove the limos.
Right. Because nobody was going to hire somebody off the street to do that. And this is somebody who won a Student Academy Award and had all kinds of credentials, couldn't even book an after-school special, had to do everything himself. Now, we're in a position where people see the end result, and you have all day. You can sit and you can shoot 80 takes. There's no film involved. The cost of film is non-existent. You can shoot all day and edit, and if you have people working for you for free, it's almost like the kind of abuse people used to take on music video sets. Like they do like 1,000
radio internships.
They do 100 setups, and you'd be shooting like 26 hours. People be bragging like, yeah, we worked on that Wu-Tang video, 26-hour shoot. It's like, because they had to have the equipment back Monday morning, and they need the thing to sell. They were hustling. They were just hustling. But now you can shoot all day at your leisure. It's a whole different story. But people tend to, and so you can shoot all day, and then you edit to make it look like what you see in the final product.
Yeah.
But if you trust me, if you go to a meeting and say, look, you got to work on this movie, and you have a budget and a schedule, they're not, those people that did that Han Solo movie, they thought they could get away with that thing. Oh, let's ad lib this, let's reshoot this, let's do this over again. You don't have that privilege, not when you're working for the man, so my beef is just like professionalism, integrity, and also realizing that once you put the work out, you can't stand there and make excuses to justify it. So how people take it globally is a whole nother thing, and what the system chooses to finance over others is another thing. So those are my issues. Those things we continually talk about.
Well, but developing the process can never ever be underestimated. That the work ethic, the vision, and executing on the vision, and surrounding yourself with the right people, the right team, in order to execute that vision in a way that's going to open the next door for opportunity for you is a big freaking deal.
And the bottom line is, there should not be a double standard. There should not be a double standard between the way Black movies get made and the way mainstream Hollywood movies get made. There should not be there should not be, oh well, give this a pass, and there should be more films that are with Black actors. There are certainly films that are neglected. Like Criterion Collection should have way more black movies given the Criterion treatment. There's no reason why Cooley High and a lot, Putney Swope should not be full featured whole histories of the same way that they treat The Rose or something that's so secondary in the canon of black in American film. It's not even funny. But I mean, for that you have to study and learn the entire canon of film and not just self-identify.
And you can do it in process. We'll come back to that because I saw a really interesting article about the way music education is taught that I think is applicable in this situation. We'll be back for the conclusion of this week's Real Black Radio in just a moment. The classic sounds of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, with the song titled Call Me. And I offer that to you today because as we look at what is going to be coming to a large or small screen near us in the not too distant future, biopics are clearly, the matter of course. There's been a lot of wheeling and dealing going on in Black Hollywood recently for new projects that are going to be emerging that are honoring some of our performance legends, Mike D.
It's a property. That's a property. So maybe one day we'll get the Mike and Steph biopic. So for those out there, it could be something. But yeah, again, we're riding this wave, and people are looking for properties to develop into movies that So clearly, comedy, music, biopics are huge things. And we're always talking about where's this movie, where's that movie. Well, happy to report that some big name talent has secured the rights to certain life stories, and we're going to, in the next year or two, we'll be seeing from producer Lionel Richie.
Yes.
The Sammy Davis biopic,
which I'm excited about. I posted about this on my Facebook page, as some of you know. I've mentioned the vaudeville troupe that Sammy's mom and dad got their start with was with my Uncle Will. And so I'm very curious to see who they're going to get to play him, of course. But in the larger scheme of things, who they're going to get to play Sammy. So the same question I had about who plays Michael Jackson on Broadway, who plays Sammy Davis Jr., because he was a singular talent. And regardless of how you feel about his politics or anything else, to be able to dance the way he did and sing the way he did and have those opportunities to perform live comedy and everything that he did with the Rat Pack.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be demanding.
Tough shoes to fill, because it's also Sammy was incredibly malnourished. They need to keep him small. So he wasn't malnourished. He was just little. So CGI comes into play because there's nobody that height anymore.
No, it's not. But I hope, and maybe I should just write Lionel Richie and say that I want this to come. I want them to let him be his Afro-Latino self. I think that there is an audience for his story in 2018 that he was denied in his heyday because we just didn't have a conversation around multicultural identity. He was raised by his Puerto Rican grandma in Spanish Harlem, as especially while his mom and dad were on the road, and that's significant to who he is.
Okay.
And
there's
I have hopes.
There's a great candid photo of Sammy Davis in your exhibit, so people should come out and see that. And from producer Dr. Dre, bringing us to the next episode, he has secured the rights to not only the music but the life rights for Marvin Gaye.
Well, the music is important, because some of these other projects that have never come to fruition did not have the full rights to the music. So the same way that for those people who ventured out, and I haven't seen it, to see Andre Benjamin playing Jimi Hendrix and the issues that they have with not having the rights to Jimi Hendrix music. So you got to work around it and how you tell the story. Dre having the rights to Marvin Gaye's music in order to include it in the film is a big deal. But again, who plays Marvin Gaye in 2018, 2019? Jesse Martin was ideal, especially for the look.
At the time.
A decade or more ago when he was scheduled to play him, that project never came to light. I can't, off the top of my head, I just can't think of who it would be now.
If you need a name, Leslie Odom Jr. would be somebody.
He doesn't look like him.
he sound good though.
He doesn't look like him.
Okay, all right.
Listen, we've had that debacle with Zoe Saldana and Nina. So I'm just saying that when we are redoing these stories, I need people to be closer. They don't have to be exact looklalikes.
Well,
but Jesse L. Martin looked a lot like Marvin, and he would have been great.
Dr. Dre and Lionel Richie, get it right now.
Please.
Get it, because I've been accused too much of being a hater when these things get messed up, and. We were all haters on that Nina film. That was god awful. Yeah, but I'm trying to turn a new leaf. I'm trying to be positive. When I go in the room with them white people and say, "Hey, I need some money to tell these stories," I got to be like, "Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, why not? Huh? Danny DeVito as Marvin Gaye, sure."
Well, listen, that's why people were saying that Kelly Rowland was the obvious choice to play Donna Summer. She does look a hell of a lot like her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. There again, we talk about the vocal chops. It takes a lot. Donna Summer had a huge voice, and a lot of people don't have the breath control and don't have the stamina. So in these, where we're talking about these multi-talented performers that we're trying to retell their life stories, just know that if you have a desire to tell a story, you're going to have to do the talent search in order to find the people who can adequately recreate some of these masterpieces, and it's not going to be easy.
I'm just giving everybody one. I'm 2 steps away from selling out, Stephanie. If somebody comes to me with some biopic stuff, I'm gonna come right. I'm be like, okay, yep, I'll do that one, because you can't win for losing, right? You try to steer people in the right direction. Hey, you might want to do that a little differently, and you get cussed out. It's like, so. Do whatever you want to do.
Mike is suffering from reading the comment syndrome.
No. I mean, no. Most people love us. I mean, we have a nice upswing in our viewership, and thank you everybody who's watching this far into a video.
The Reelblack channel on YouTube.
No, I love the fact that we have an intelligent following. It's just like you see all this stuff. Like even I didn't want to bring it up, the Triple X Tentacion. They said that this guy was a rapper.
I had no idea how you said his name, so I'm glad that you
X Tentacion. Well, this guy, he just got. He talked about his demise quite a bit, and he made himself an anti-hero. So maybe it was karma, but it was just some random thugs that wanted his Louis bag, right? So I can't be walking around Broad Street with my Louis bag or whatever it is. As long as I got a hoopty, I'm good with representing the people.
Mike, do you even own anything remotely close to a Louis bag?
I'm just saying, like you can be of the people and try and say, like, look, don't. You might not want to go in that McDonald's every single day.
Well, yes.
Just like, here, take
but
this bus pass.
especially not if you're talking smack on record or on video and people feel a need to call you out on your stuff.
I'm just saying there's hate all around. So if I'm hating I might just pick up on somebody else's hate. The next thing you know, I'm like somebody's like Instagram memorial and they're swiping by liking me.
Well, we don't want that. But we can't let time run out without me shouting out emerging Black business.
Okay.
So we mentioned Black Star Film Festival earlier. We want people to locally, of course, to support it, but also the folks that are coming in from out of town. You have a new place to stay, and we want to make sure that you know about it and that you let your friends and family who might be coming to Philly for any purpose over the course of the summer, to let them know that rather than going to the big hotel chains and spending your money there, Aquaba, which we have shouted out here on Word Radio consistently, especially for their space that they took over the DuPont Mansion in the Poconos and have a very successful bed and breakfast that is featured on the OWN series Checking In. But they have bought a building here in West Philadelphia, 37th and Bearing, and they are doing their kind of open to the public, or at least media, preview on July 4th, and then it will be available for people to book stays here in our city. So 37th and Bearing, right there in West Philly, easily accessible to all kinds of things, especially International House. Right. Make sure you're letting people know the Aquaba Bed and Breakfast Philly is going to be open in July, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. July 4th is significant to the company because they opened their first headquarters. They call it the Aquaba Mansion in Brooklyn on July 4th, 1995.
Okay.
So we're talking about successful Black business, and now they are going to be right here in our city, the first of its kind in our city. That's a big doggone deal.
Right on. So I ain't like Willie D. I ain't with being broke. I'm disappointed. I didn't get a chance to do the Dolomite Rudy Ray Moore story with Tommy Too Smooth, but Eddie Murphy's doing that. They're in production now. But there still are life rights available for Nipsey Russell. So I may do a GoFundMe before the end of the year. The Nipsey Russell story. No. Oh, come on. Just recreate Match Game 75?
If you recreate Scarecrow, then I'm going to be happy. From The Wiz.
Plenty of great stories out there. And then on the way in, shout out to The Carters. They dropped an album last week.
Which is freaking amazing.
Well,
I can't play it for y'all because I don't have the clean version.
Well, they have, but
I love it.
They're playing the clean version, but so it's called Ape-ish, the clean version, right? But if you say it fast, it's ape-ish. So is that racist? Would that get Roseanne in trouble?
There's a reason why. Have you listened to the album?
I've listened. I don't have Tidal anymore.
Have you sat in? Okay, no. So I got the hookup. I'll send it to you.
All right.
We gotta go.
But is ape-ish racist?
But no.
Okay.
Because of the way that they're basically saying that the whole thing about the video being shot in the Louvre and them using that term is to turn it on its ear. That it's like, you want to call us monkeys as a way to degrade it. They're talking about the evolution of who they are as artists, who we are as a people, and regardless of what you call us, we still go hard and we have come so far. That is the message of the song. And the whole album
Martin Luther King
is
is like nodding his head now. He's like, yes, okay. All right,
I get it. But you got to spend some time with it.
So buy the Carters album and watch Superfly on bootleg. Is that cool? Is that fair enough? Can we all get along?
And
don't hate on me anymore.
And on that note, we end today's broadcast. Don't forget, the next Friday we will be live on the set at the Fresh Grocer at Monument Avenue for our annual barbecue competition. So please come by, Mike. We're not going to be doing a segment, so come down and eat and have a good time with your family here at Word Radio. Brother Shamari is up next, so keep your dial locked here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and streaming live all day long, every day at wordradio.com. Take care.
Mr. Fly, you destroyed my beverage.